Why are there few skyscrapers in Europe? Despite Europe being an advanced, populous continent with a strong economy, it does not have many tall buildings. This characteristic becomes particularly noticeable when compared to Asia and North America. 66% of the 218 tall buildings ever constructed on this continent are located in 5 cities: London, Paris, Frankfurt, Moscow, and Istanbul. When skyscrapers began to be built in Chicago and New York in the 19th century, most European cities, which already had old buildings, did not have enough space to construct towers. In other words, everywhere was too crowded and space was so limited that it was impossible to build tall structures. On the other hand, lands in different areas of cities were divided uniformly, so critical areas like commercial centers were not easily expandable or suitable for skyscraper construction. However, with the growth of power in North America, a cultural competition emerged between Americans and Europeans. Americans viewed European society, which was seen as class-based, as an outdated and obsolete style. Conversely, Europeans thought that some American ideas harmed European traditions and culture. This difference in perspective made each continent hesitant to adopt the other's concepts. As a result, while North America strived to become a model for a new era, Europe tried to preserve its culture and heritage. The first reason was that lands were crowded and there was no possibility to build tall towers. Many thought that after World War II, European cities should merge with modernity and the tall buildings constructed in America. But in Western Europe, where most cities had lost their historical buildings, everyone was seeking reconstruction, and a particular enthusiasm for restoring previous assets emerged. The second reason was related to population size. Since Europe had a relatively small population, the demand for land space was lower. This led not only to a lack of tall building construction, but also to a significant focus on reconstruction and preservation of ancient heritage and culture. When the first tall buildings were built in America, Europe did not pay much attention because, at that time, Europe was grappling with many problems, one of which was the lack of sufficient space to construct tall structures. Consequently, America moved toward skyscrapers after World War II, while Europe paid less attention to this issue. Simultaneously, as North America advanced and war-torn Western Europe rebuilt, the Soviet Union in Eastern Europe tried to accommodate large numbers of people through extensive construction of mid-rise buildings. The first tall buildings in Europe emerged during this period, not due to growth or survival, but as a desperate effort by the Soviet Union to display power. In Brussels, there are hardly any tall buildings. One of the reasons for the lack of tall skyscrapers in Europe is the absence of appropriate regulations. For example, in the 1960s, many buildings in this city were constructed without regard for architectural and cultural values. However, when it became clear that these reconstructions damaged the urban fabric, architectural experts introduced new regulations that imposed significant restrictions on construction. These regulations emphasized the reconstruction and restoration of historical parts of the city and tried to integrate new constructions with the city's cultural values. This experience in Brussels led to a general aversion to modern buildings across Europe. Europeans considered these buildings soulless. Thus, many cities created similar regulations and designated specific areas for new constructions to keep tall buildings away from historical city centers. By the early 21st century, Europeans' attitudes toward tall buildings began to change as trends shifted toward diversity. Before the 21st century, most of Europe's tall buildings were located in major cities like London, Paris, Moscow, Istanbul, and Frankfurt, as well as financial centers. The reason was the increased demand for commercial space in these cities. However, smaller European cities with slower growth focused on the environment and improving the quality of life for their residents. Among these regions are Northern and Central Europe, which have always ranked among the top in the world in terms of sustainability, happiness, and welfare, while simultaneously succeeding in the national economy. But today, tall buildings in cities are not constructed solely for economic growth or the need for commercial offices. It is predicted that by 2030, 66% of the world's population will be urbanized. Therefore, tall residential buildings in Asia and North America have gained significant importance. In recent years, traditional rural industries have become automated, and with millions migrating to cities and increasing demand for housing, construction has shifted toward tall residential spaces, with skyscrapers meeting this human need. Europe has not been immune to this issue, especially as smaller cities have also been affected by these developments. In the future, due to global cultural development and Europe's intention to compete with the economic progress and growth of China and the United States, we will witness a massive increase in skyscrapers on this continent. However, the problem is that all urban centers have been declared historical sites, and preserving Europe's ancient heritage and culture remains a strong principle. This will lead to specific challenges regarding tall buildings in Europe in the future. Thank you very much for watching this video until the end. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, if you have any specific topics in mind, let us know in the comments so we can make videos about them.